to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along, it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you. Because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump. President Biden, stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
President and former president making their way off the CNN debate stage. Looks like Jill Biden, the First Lady, has come out. Former President Trump walking off the stage. The first debate of the 2024 campaign and the earliest presidential debate ever now in the books and in front of the voters. Tonight, along with Erin Burnett, the first word on what those voters might make of it from our political professionals, from our CNN Flash Poll and Swing State Focus Group. We'll be talking to surrogates, including Vice President Harris, getting fact checks from our Daniel Dale, and new reporting from inside both campaigns. With me here, CNN political commentator Scott Jennings, Kate Bedingfield, David Urban, Van Jones, Alyssa Farrar Griffin, and Newsnight anchor Abby Phillip, and David Axelrod, and CNN Chief National Correspondent John King. John, let me start with you. Your thoughts?
Anderson, this was a game-changing debate in the sense that right now, as we speak, there is a deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic in the Democratic Party. It started minutes into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists, it involves elected officials, it involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which they think will hurt other people down the party in the ticket, and they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Other of the conversations are about, should prominent Democrats go public with that call? Because they feel this debate was so terrible. They do say, in moments in the debate later, the president got better and got his footing, but then at the end, even his closing statement was a little halting. The contrast between the two candidates. Let me be clear. None of them, and a lot of Republicans, don't think Donald Trump had a great night. Donald Trump broke the fact-check machine more than I can count tonight. That will be on the record as we go forward. He refused to answer some very specific and direct questions about his conduct, about January 6th and what all. So that will be dealt with out there. And sometimes there's a parallel universe between the political elites and the American people. It'd be nice to see what the voters say. But I can tell you, it started minutes in. It started with the first couple of answers, and it has continued throughout the night from a, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God, to what do we do about this? And it involves very senior people in the Democratic Party, including elected officials, saying we have a problem.
And just to co-sign what John is saying, I mean, the panic that I am hearing from Democrats is not like anything that I have heard in this campaign so far. And a lot of it has to do with, first of all, there was a deep frustration about Trump's lies. I mean, he lied a lot tonight. Right. But the problem for Biden was that Trump was able to take sometimes incredible falsehoods and turn them into some kind of argument, whereas Biden's answers were, in a lot of cases, not coherent. Deeply problematic that he was not able to take pretty straightforward answers and answer them to the American public. And then also at some points bringing things up that teed up Trump attacks. So there's a real concern here tonight that there's been some real damage done that cannot be undone. Biden solidified the perception among voters, but especially among his base. They were hoping that tonight would be a game changer. They are now seeing a president who is in the White House, who they do not necessarily believe can do this for another 4 years.
David Axelrod?
Look, I can't argue with either of them about how Democratic leaders are reacting to this poll. We said at the beginning that each person had a fundamental goal, and for Biden, that goal was to appear energetic, engaged, and look like someone who is capable of serving for another 4 years for president. That was job number one. I actually think he scored a bunch of points. I think if you just judge this on sort of policy stuff, he did score a bunch of points on issues like abortion, for example, on some of the economic issues. But there is a feeling, I think there was a sense of shock, actually, at how he came out at the beginning of this debate, how his voice sounded. He seemed a little disoriented. He did get stronger as the debate went on, but by that time, I think the panic had set in, and I think you're going to hear discussions that I don't know will lead to anything, but there are going to be discussion about whether he should continue. And I think part of it is Donald Trump did not meet his mission either. He could not resist the temptation to be nasty, to prevaricate about a whole bunch of things, about his own record, about Biden's record, and to seem petty and small at times. So what you saw was a candidate who's deeply vulnerable
and a president who may not be able to take advantage of it.
Listen, if anybody in America thinks that was even close to being an okay debate by Joe Biden, I'm living in a parallel universe. That was an unmitigated disaster for President Biden from the second he walked out to the closing statement. The biggest issue for Democrats is abortion, and he couldn't give an answer. He gave an answer, he couldn't even give a coherent answer on the biggest issue for Democrats tonight. I've heard from leading Democrats across the United States, elected governors, congressmen, who are texting me and saying, I'm worried I'm going to lose if Joe Biden's at the top of the ticket. Bob Casey, I promise you tonight, in the state of Pennsylvania, is thrown up in his mouth because he knows that if he's got to stand next to Joe Biden, he's going down in Pennsylvania. If he's on the ticket, I don't know how it's going to work.
Yeah, look, it was a really disappointing debate performance from Joe Biden. I don't think there's any other way to slice it. His biggest issue that he had to prove to the American people was that he had the energy, he had the stamina, and he didn't do that. And so I think that is of concern, and I think for a lot of Democrats that's very disappointing. I will say Donald Trump also had some really rough moments in this debate, and talking to the Biden campaign, they say their dials started really moving away from Trump as he was increasing his personal attacks on Biden. So I think there was a lot about his kind of character and the kind of personal nastiness that he was putting on display, that doesn't help him with the swing voters that he needs. And I also think you saw him continue to get sort of more and more animated across the course of the debate and, give some really problematic answers about January 6th, some really problematic answers about Putin. So, Donald Trump did not get off scot-free tonight by any stretch. But look, there is no two ways about it. That was not a good debate for Joe Biden.
Ben?
That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. And he looked, I'll give you the analysis, you kind of have the old man versus the con man. I can walk you through how I'm supposed to see it and say it, but I just want to speak from my heart. I love that guy. That's a good man. He loves his country. He's doing the best that he can. But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain for what we saw tonight.
And if I may just add to that, I think Joe Biden lost in the first 3 minutes. I think a lot of voters probably tuned out, and millions of people are having conversations with their families, with their friends, of if the president is up to the task and if he should step aside. And I'm someone who believes the former president is a threat to democracy. I think he is a threat to the America as we know it. He wants to fundamentally change our institutions. He has laid out what his plan is. I am not confident that that is the man to take him on. You cannot tell me democracy is on the line and then give that performance tonight. If, based on that, in 18 weeks, Donald Trump will be the president-elect.
The people doing focus groups tonight, and we'll see if our dial group with Laura Coates confirms this, say that Biden actually scores pretty well on the issues when he's talking about the substance. And Trump's numbers went down both because he was ducking questions, he was lying about some things, and he was refusing to answer. And some of it was the tone. They don't like him. So when you see that, when you see sort of the statistics, you're going to look at like, oh, that's a mixed bag. But to Vance's point about the president's performance, that's what caused the panic. So the question is, and my question actually is, what happens? Because it's a great political strength of Joe Biden is his resilience and his stubbornness. It's also sometimes a blind spot because he is so stubborn. It's going to be very hard to someone, and I don't know who it is, who could go to Joe Biden and say, you need to do this, number one. And the question is, again, like, I'm just telling you, to Abby's point, I've been doing this for 30-something years, going on 40 years, and I have never, ever had what happened on this thing tonight happen in the middle of a debate. It started early, and it continued. And to Van's point, Van made a very important point. These are people who love Joe Biden, who credit Joe Biden for kicking Donald Trump out of the White House. They're Democrats. The Democratic Party is a very diverse party. It fights about a lot of things. It has generational issues. It's had regional issues and everything else. The thing that unites the Democratic Party is trying to keep Donald Trump from getting back into the White House. They love Joe Biden for kicking him out. They don't want him back. They came into this debate nervous. that Biden was in a weak position. They leave this debate panicked.
John, if you love the guy, how could you put him out there?
That's
like that? If you love him, if you love Joe Biden, if that was my father, you don't put a guy in that situation.
It's a great point. These guys know this better. These guys know this better because they talk to them. There's this legacy in the Democratic Party. You don't challenge the incumbent because when it's happened in the past, they haven't beaten the incumbent, and then the incumbent has lost the general election.
It was actually Donald Trump that helped make Joe Biden the nominee because there was a feeling that if there were a primary, that would weaken, that Biden would probably win, but it would weaken him in a general election. And so there were people who could have run and didn't run because the history of that is bad. The point is now he is the nominee of the Democratic Party. This isn't the 60s, okay? Voters choose the nominee. He is the nominee. Only he can decide whether he's going to continue. And as you point out, and as Kate knows very well, this is a guy with a lot of pride and who believes in himself. And the idea that he's going to say, you know what, I had a bad debate, I think I'm going to walk away from this, I find it hard to believe.
It was also, and I'll let you, I know, Scott, you've been trying to jump in, but it was also, it was an atypically bad performance, okay? And it was also one night. So yes, was it an important night? Yes, but it was one night in the course of a campaign. So I think let's see how voters react to it. Let's see how voters react to it.
The problem with the one night is that it's a one night that helped confirm people's fears. It's the one night that everybody was watching. That was essentially, you know, Trump said, you ought to take a test. That was his test. And people are going to feel that he came up wanting, not on the substance. I think he actually won on the substance. I don't think Trump did well. I think what it says to a lot of people, a lot of active Democrats is, man, we can beat this guy, but I don't know if we can beat him with the president.
Scott, we haven't heard from you.
When we came on before this debate, I said I thought this candidacy was teetering. And everybody jumped on me.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Every single person out here. And I just, the candidacy has fallen, okay? Van, I know you're speaking from your heart. I'm worried about the president. We should pray for the president. I think his advisors, I think the White House, and I think his family have a lot of explaining to do to their party and to the American people. This night, this one night, was caused by and asked for by the Biden team. They wanted this night. And this is what we got. We have been told for weeks by Democrats who say, oh, in private meetings, I've seen Joe Biden do cartwheels and handstands while doing trigonometry while solving all the nation's problems. We now know that every single person who said that has been lying to the American people.
Including Kevin McCarthy?
We've been told, Kate.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Kate, everything we've been told about his mental acuity by these Democrats has been a lie, and everything we think we knew has been confirmed. I got a text from a friend. She's not terribly political. She'd maxed out to Biden in the last election because she hates Donald Trump. She said to me, I will never forgive the Democratic Party for this election. If the Democrats truly believe that he is an existential threat to democracy, and that's not just some talking point, they will wake up in the morning and they will do something else because this is not sustainable.
That's another point about there are Democrats who are panicking, and then there are a lot of Republicans who did not want to vote for Donald Trump, who do not want to vote for Donald Trump, who are also panicking tonight. I heard from one who said, this is scary. That's how it was described to me. And
I'd second that.
There were a lot of those feelings, not just from the base of the party, but other people who really think that there should be an alternative to Trump, who they think is dangerous. And that's the other part of what is unfolding tonight in terms of the panic that is out there.
Guys, you already have, coming into this debate, support for third-party candidates, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. highest, and then Jill Stein and Cornel West nowhere near as close. But if you add it all up, you get into the teens in most states when you do that. I think one byproduct out of this is watch and see if those numbers go up a little bit. I'm not saying they're going to go up anywhere like a Perot standard, but you get to third-party candidates getting into double digits, then that's really starts to twist your electoral math, depending on who they're drawing from state by state. Guys, this was already a very complicated race. This is within. Number one, the biggest complication right now is the conversation with the Democratic Party. But the other complication is going to be if Joe Biden stays put, and Kate's right, maybe there'll be another debate. I'm not sure Donald Trump's going to agree to a second debate. Biden's going to need it now. I'm not sure Trump's going to agree to it if the dynamics of the race change.
They'll never
and I would
meet
also
again.
watch the third party.
I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Especially to you two guys. If, for whatever reason, there's a change at the top of the ticket, you guys are in trouble with Donald Trump, because the guy who was up there tonight is not a guy who's going to inspire people. He did not show in any way that he has changed from the guy who people have a very positive opinion of for a lot of good reason.
I think Donald Trump won several policy exchanges tonight. I think he did well on immigration. I think he did well on the economy. I think he did well on inflation. I think he went back to Afghanistan as he should have. The thing he did not do was, after he realized that he had Biden beaten on policy and on image, he should have turned the page and sounded an optimistic note about what we can become as a people and as a country. He did not do that. He continued to pummel Joe Biden all night. I understand what you're saying, but at the end of the night, very few things about the policy exchanges is going to be remembered. People are going to remember Joe Biden. They're going to remember him shuffling out. They're going to remember him staring blankly into the camera. They're going to remember him looking down, losing his train of thought. And they're going to remember that everything I thought I knew, but the White House told me don't believe my own eyes, is actually true.
But that's not what I'm saying. What I said, Scott, was if Joe Biden were not the candidate, if there was another candidate, I think Donald Trump would be in deep trouble.
But if I may, that is such a sad state of affairs. Something I was consistently hearing is, what a bad debate, in the sense that Donald Trump lied throughout. He misrepresented. He tried to turn away from key points that he should have given answers on, and kept deflecting. With any normal, generic Democrat next to him, I don't think he would have won the night. But you put somebody who was suffering from the moment that they got out. It was hard to watch. I had to occasionally look away because it was so uncomfortable. I think America deserves better than the options that are in front of them. It's really devastating. And by the way, our allies are watching.
Yeah, look, I mean, the way that I would try to phrase it if I were less emotional is Biden stuttered, but he told the truth. He looked terrible, but his policies were good. Trump spoke plainly, but he lied the whole time. And he looked good, but his policies were terrible. I mean, he's going to do nothing on climate change. He was hugging the cactus on abortion. I mean, his policies are terrible. So you have somebody who probably shouldn't be president, and you have somebody who cannot be president in terms of what Donald Trump represents. So we have a problem as a country now, and this might be an opportunity for people to come together and figure this out, because neither one of those people right now are inspiring the confidence that they should inspire, that they can do the job in a way that would be good for the country.
But young voters are up for grabs in this election, and I don't know a voter under 30 who would have watched tonight and could say, I have confidence in Joe Biden and casting my vote for 4 more years of Biden.
And this opens the door, by the way, for the conversation about, if Joe Biden remains the candidate, you're not voting for Joe Biden. You are voting for President Kamala Harris. Let's be honest. That is where the Trump campaign is going to go with this. They started down this road with an ad they released today. But this conversation about who you're actually casting your vote for, the volume is going to ratchet up. And I got news for you. She's less popular than he is. That is going to be a big problem for the Democrats if this ticket stays the way it is.
Yeah, and to Scott's Democratic friend who maxed out, right? That's the sentiment you're going to hear, I think, from some of my Democratic friends who are texting me saying, I can't believe this is where we are, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to forgive the party for putting in this position.
Look,
on Donald Trump's lies. I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about this throughout the debate, because, we in the media, I sit in the chair and I fact check Trump all the time. So I know these lies by heart at this point. But people watching from home do not. And Biden's job as the other person on the other side of the stage is to be the one to very quickly dispense with the lies and to shut them down. And I don't think that happened enough times in a coherent way to blunt the fact that Trump was taking a universe that was built on a house of lies and building a whole world for the millions of people watching.
Particularly on some of the most basic subject matters that President Biden should have been able to just...
That world that he was able to build, it was not knocked down by the president. That is really at the heart of the problem. He may have won when he was making his discrete policy points, but part of the job on the debate stage is dealing with an opponent like Donald Trump, who goes like a mile a minute on things that are not true. And if you don't
I'm
deal
not
with
sure,
that,
Abby.
I don't know if
But
no one at home is doing that.
All I
No
want
one
to
at
say
home
is
doing that.
I'm not sure. I don't think you're giving viewers enough credit. I think what they saw was the Trump that they didn't like. And I don't think he did himself a great service tonight.
But
yes, and I also think we should let voters absorb this and see what they say, right? Let's look at the dials. Let's look at let's look at where they are next week. We can make our pronouncements, but ultimately voters have to absorb
They're
it.
going to turn your mics off, guys.
Real quickly, on the one thing that that Biden did fact check him on the Charlottesville thing, he was completely wrong. Right, so he's up there talking about Charlottesville and Trump not denouncing the two sides, and Snopes was out last week. 7 months, 7 years too late kind of thing on the deal. And that's the thing Joe Biden's going to fact check him on, something that was proven false.
We're going to more with the panel out here. A lot of notable moments, painful moments from tonight, but as we've been talking about, perhaps a single defining one as well, this one early on.